Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and today we're going to bring you a cichlid that's got a nice bit of color. It doesn't get too large and it has a really great personality. So stay tuned and we're going to tell you more about it. What we're looking at here is the Elanocara Jacob Fiber guy, otherwise known as the Eureka Red Cichlid or Eureka Red Peacock. It's a great fish. You're looking at a male on the left, and he's got the orange and the blue head, and he's going to get a little bit more blue on the bottom part of his body, and you may start to see white tips to the fins, both dorsal fin, the tail fin, and even the pectoral fins. This fish comes from Lake Malawi, and being an African cichlid, they're going to like slightly harder water. pH is going to probably be ideally around upper 7s, around 8 or so. The size of these fish, this one here, the male is probably closing in on 4 inches. The females may be slightly smaller. I've had these fish in the past. I've had males in the past in very large tanks, up to 150 gallons. I never saw them get over 5 inches, although there are reports that they can get up to 7 inches. I just haven't seen that. I usually plan for about 5 inches, and that's about where I think he's going to wind up being. Again, the females might be a little bit smaller. You can see here the coloration. That is the male right there, and he's still relatively young, and so he's going, like I said, he's going to get a little bit deeper color red. Right now it's still kind of orange. The ones I've had in the past get a very deep reddish orange color. The females, we've got that male. The rest of the fish in this tank are females, and you can see them here. They stay brown, not too exciting in terms of color. Their temperament, this is a cichlid I really like, at least in terms of their temperament. All of the Eureka Red peacocks that I have had have been on the less aggressive side, and so I've had these fish in community cichlid tanks that were mixed with some tropical fish, and they never chased other fish around. They would get bullied from time to time if there were larger peacocks or larger haps in the tank, but nothing extreme, no fin nipping. But I have never really seen these fish, try to bully other fish. Here we're looking at some fry that one of the females had, and I'll talk more about them later. But the tank mates for these fish are other peacocks, other large haps, not too large, but around the same size, 5, 6, 7 inches, maybe even slightly larger. Again, they get along fairly well with like temperament cichlids, and so the peacocks and the haps are definitely something that you could consider. You may not want to mix any of the more aggressive mbunas with these fish because they would probably get bullied. But I've had them in with yellow labs. I've even had them in with red zebras without any issues. But I think some of the more aggressive ones, possibly red zebras, Johannes, Damasceni's, they might start chasing these guys around. So you have to be very careful with the mbunas, even though they're coming from the same lake. So temperature for these guys, we keep them in the upper 70s, somewhere around 78 temperature range. I think you'd be doing well if you kept them above 78, and I wouldn't go too much above 80. The pH, Lake Malawi's got a higher pH, and so the tanks that we have with the African cichlids, they're generally around a pH of 8, and they're doing great. As you can see, they're breeding. And right here we've got the little babies. The mother had just released these, and you could still see the egg yolk sacs attached, and they're kind of having a hard time swimming around. This is the first time I think that they had been released, and so I wanted to get that on camera when I saw it. Water quality, I would say average. Keep up with your water changes. I don't consider them to be particularly sensitive fish. In terms of what they eat just about everything I've ever put in a tank, and so they'll eat pellets, they'll eat flake food, they like frozen brine shrimp. From time to time I might give them a little bit of frozen bloodworm, but I tend to stay away from it. I tend to use more flakes and pellets with these guys and frozen brine shrimp, and that seems to be what they really like. Tank size, I bet you could keep a male and 2 or 3 females, and that would probably be the ultimate setup if you're looking to breed. You could probably do that in a 40. You could certainly do it in a 40 breeder. I think a 29 might be pushing the lower limits, but I've seen people do it and be successful with it. but 40 breeder certainly would work. We have a male with 4 females in a 55-gallon. That's a lot of space for them. I don't necessarily know if they need it, and I've thought about moving them back down to a 40-gallon breeder. The decor in the 55 right now, it's really not hardscaped other than to have a fake little log feature and a couple of small fake plants, but it would be nice to have some rock work in there, but not too much towards the top, because they do like to they're more mid-water fish than they are, you know, they're not like Mbunas where they're going to really be in the rocks and really be in the substrate, although they do dig, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But a little bit of rock work would be nice, and that's probably the direction we will be going as we start to make that 55-gallon look a little bit nicer. Now, again, with breeding setup, we kept it real simple. They were in a 55-gallon. Again, they just had that one piece of fake woodwork, and the male dug out the gravel underneath that, and that gave them an area to do their mating process. And so again, what we're seeing there is very young fry. They had just been released. So what's going to happen, the female is going to hold those eggs and eventually the fry in her mouth, and it could be a while. And this particular female had those fry for about 3 weeks. They can go a little bit longer, and she held them, and I had a feeling she wasn't comfortable releasing them in the 55-gallon, so I moved her to a 10-gallon, and sure enough, after about 2 days, she felt it was safe enough to release the fry. You saw those little guys swimming around with their yolk sac still attached. The picture that you're looking at here, these are fry that are obviously a little bit bigger, almost in the juvenile stage now. So there is parental care. The mothers do a good job. The mother was very aggressive. You know, if I put my hand anywhere near the tank, the fry generally eat live baby brine when they're tiny after that yolk sac kind of goes away. And then they immediately start eating, at least our fry were eating flake food, and they are nibbling on micro pellets. And so they don't seem to be particularly picky about what they're eating. So this is a great fish. It's got nice color. At least the males have great color. They're not too difficult to find in the hobby. If you're going to breed them, it's best to have a male and at least 2 or 3 females. Like I said, we've got a male and 4 females. That's just kind of how it worked out. And at any given time, at least 2 or 3 of those females are holding in the 55-gallon that we have. There aren't a whole lot of challenges. It's not a fish I would necessarily keep in a community setup with non-cichlids, but it's a great fish to offer a little bit of orange and blue to a peacock tank. If you've got some males in there, it's not going to be overly aggressive. At least the ones we have haven't been overly aggressive. So definitely a fish you should check out if you're interested in peacocks and cichlids. All right, so there you have it, Eureka Red Cichlid. It's a great fish. It doesn't have a ton of aggression. It does show nice color, especially as it gets older. Not too hard to breed. So if you like this video, subscribe, share it, and we'll see you in the next one.